In this video, we will talk about the event types in Splunk. Okay, so event types is a knowledge object, as we have seen, like different other knowledge objects like lookups, tags, those things, right? So event type is also another kind of knowledge object in Splunk. So basically, if we just talk about like very simplistic way, what are the different, what is actually event types is. So event types are basically a mechanism through which you can categorize your event, okay, so that the underlying data makes more sense. Now, what do we mean by categorization? Let's take an example over here. So let's say we have this access combined data, right? And if we just filter out the data based on status equals to 200 and action equals to purchase, so basically these events are representing the successful purchase over here, right? So if we just create an event type on this one, so those event types, those events, those eligible events which will be basically satisfy this particular condition, those events will be assigned a event type of that particular name. Okay, so we can create an event type from this search, which will basically give us the info about all the successful purchases over here, right? Now, if we, after you create that event type, right, so whenever you run a search which basically returns a event which is basically satisfying these two conditions over here, basically these three conditions over here, then those events will be automatically tagged as this particular event type, whatever we are creating in this step over here. Okay, so that's the basic idea about event types. Now, as it is a knowledge object, so and Splunk assigned this event type on search time, so there are some kind of computations needed, right, the resource needed. So that's why when you create an event type, you need to be very sure like why you wanted to create that event type, because it is not like you are creating a shortcut for your search, which we'll see eventually in the next slide. Okay, let us park that one for a minute. Okay, so a single event can match multiple event types. As I said, like you can create multiple event types in your app, right, and for your data. So and it may possible that a single event will satisfy multiple conditions for multiple event types, right? In those cases, the event type field, so basically whenever you create an event type and the event is actually satisfying the conditions for the event type, so a new field event type will be created for that event, which will hold the event type name, right? So when this situation occur, when a particular event match multiple event types, in those cases the event type field value will be a multi-value field. Okay, so now, as I was saying, like it is not recommended to use event types as a shortcut or to shorten the portion of a search, as it can consume a lot of data. Okay, so if you want to do that one, then you need to use the search macro in those cases. Okay, because the more event types you'll be creating, the more cost in the search performance it will be. So you have to be very much careful when you want to create multiple event types here. Okay, now let's move on to the next slide. Now this is an important one. This table actually telling us what are the different operations Splunk do search time, okay, when basically you run a search query. So this 8 operations over here, okay, are very much important, and their sequence is very much important over here, because when you'll be defining these knowledge objects, you have to be very careful what you are defining. Suppose if you see the first operation Splunk do is the inline field extraction. If you remember when I discussed about the search time field extraction in props.conf, right, we created this extract field extraction class, right, and there we are basically giving some regular expression, right? So this guy will be evaluated first if there is any props.conf entry with this inline regular expression. This will be evaluated first. Now second, it will be the field extraction that uses the transformation. That means we are basically creating either report or transform based, right? So that means there will be a transform.conf stanza corresponding to this props.conf stanza, right, where we will be defining our regular expression. So this will be evaluated second. At third, it will be the automatic key value pairs. That means it totally based on, if you remember from my video on props.conf, right, we have discussed the KV mode, right? So if we set the KV mode for a particular valid value except none, then those KV mode related stuff will be evaluated third. At the fourth, the field alias, right? We can create field alias in Splunk. Maybe in my channel I still not discuss this one. I will eventually do this one, because after doing this field alias, then event types, tags will be moving to SIM, that common information model. That's why this thing, understanding these stuffs are important over here. Okay, so field alias will be evaluated at number 4. At 5th, it will be all calculated fields. If you define any calculated fields through eval statement or eval configuration in props.conf, even I have discussed the same stuff in my video as well. I'll be giving that video link over here. Okay, so those things will be evaluated at the 5th. On 6th, all the lookups related stuff will be evaluated. At the 7th, the event types, right? So that means when you create an event type, the search string you'll be providing, the search string can have a automatic lookup you can define. So those stuff it can automatically take. It can take eval field extraction. It can take the field aliases which you define, right? So those field aliases will be created automatically in Splunk, right? Even it can take those field names where you will be extracting through KV mode, right? So those type of things it can take care of. It can take, right? Now at last, the tags will be evaluated. That means when you define the search for a event type, you cannot define something like tag equals to something, because Splunk will not know the information about the tag, because during the search time event types will be created first, then the tags, right? So these things you have to take care of when you will be defining something. So similar stuff will go for field alias and other calculated field as well, right? Okay, now when you define a event type in Splunk, right, so there are certain restrictions we need to follow. Is like the search string you will be defining, the event types cannot reference tags, as I already explained in my previous slide. Now the search string cannot include a pipe operator, so that means it has to have a single search. Okay, and search string cannot include a sub search. So if you have sub search in your search, you cannot create an event type out of it. Now it is recommended, but not the restriction, that you use the save search command inside a event type, because like when you use a save search, right, so that underlying save search can be changed by any other users over there, right? So if you define an event type using this save search command, it may happen that in future you'll be breaking that event type, so it will not be consistent throughout your data life cycle, right? So that's why it is recommended that it should not use that save search command as a part of the search string in event types. Okay, now let's see in our Splunk Enterprise how event type we can create and what we can do with it. Okay, now to create the event types, we'll be using the same data, Splunk tutorial data, which I already indexed in my main index, and mainly whatever example I have shown you in my slide, right? The source type equals to access combined, so that with that data we will be working on. So we will add these two things over here, where my status equals to 200, right, and my action equals to purchase over here. So this is basically, we are basically taking up all the successful purchases from the Buttercup Games website, right? So now there are 3 ways you can create event types. Okay, all basically do the same stuff, but the interface is slightly different. One way is you can create something like save as event type from here. Okay, so here you can give the event type name, you can tag it as well. So as we still not discussed tag, which we'll be eventually doing in my next video, over there we'll be extensively looking into how to create tags and how to tag an event types as well. Okay, so that's why I'm not touching this one now. We'll be touching it in the next video. Here you can give a color of your event types as well, so that when it will be displayed over here, right, so it will display a color over here as well. Okay, and you can give a priority as well. So when you define multiple event types in your for your data, right, so which event type will get precedence, because when Splunk needs to display the color over here, right, and also it will display the event type names in that event list, so which will be seeing it very shortly. Over there it basically lists down all the event types based on their priority as well. Okay, so which event type will be applied first, then the next one. So those priority you can set it up over here as well for each and every event type, where 1 is the highest and 10 is the lowest. Okay, now this is one way. Another way is you can click over here of the event details. From the event action menu, you can click on this build event types, which will take you to another page where you basically, in the left hand portion, if you see, for each and every field it will give you their unique values. Okay, from here you can always choose like on which data you want to create an event type, because for us we'll be taking the action equals to purchase over here, because that's the search we have given it over here, right? If you want to further filter this one, you can do it from here and then save it. It will give you the same window where you can give this event type name, the style means the color, and the priority as well over here. Okay, so this is the second way. And the third way is you can go to settings and you can go to event types from here. Okay, so here you can create this new event type. Over here you can select the destination app where this configuration file will be saved, name, the search string, right, the tags, the color, and the priority, same configurations over here. Okay, so these are 3 ways you can create event types in Splunk. So I think I generally prefer this way, because this is you can see the search result from here and then just save as event type from here. Okay, as I have run this search in search and reporting app, so this will be saved in search and reporting app only. Okay, the configurations. If you want to save it in some other app, you may need to move it accordingly. Okay, or maybe from that app you need to go to the search and run this search and just save it. Okay, so let's save it. We'll say successful purchase. Okay, so that's the name we'll be giving for our event types over here. Color, let's say we'll save it as green. Priority, we'll give it as highest, we'll save it. Okay, so that's the event type we have created. Now if I just go over here in settings, event types, after you create event type, right, so you can see that event type from here as well, from the settings and event type menu. Now currently it is private. If you just change the permission over here to all apps, let's say, you can, based on your requirement, you need to set the permission over here. Okay, so now it is global. Now behind the scene it creates the eventtypes.conf file. So let us see that one. We'll go to our Splunk shortcut and then etc apps, and we'll go to our search app, as it will be saved in our search app. In the local folder, if you see it over here, there is a eventtypes.conf file, right? So let's open it. So this is the event type we just created over here. The color will be ET, means event type, underscore green, underscore red, underscore blue, something like this one. Okay, and the search string over here. Okay, so it's a very simple configuration file. Even if you want to create an event type directly from the configuration file, you just need to create a stanza with the event type name and give these configurations over here, and then restart Splunk or do a debug refresh. Then it will be automatically saved as event type in your Splunk enterprise. Okay, so we have seen the basic way of creating event types. Right now, if I just wanted to run using that event type, what I'll do, I'll just run a search something like this one, event type, okay, equals to that event type we have created just now, right? Successful purchase over here, successful purchase. So let's do it for all time, because I have very less amount of data over here. Okay, so if you see it over here, most of the events where we have status 200, because this is all the status 200 events only, right? So that's why all of their colors are green over here, right? So it is only fetching those events where my status is 200 and action equals to purchase over here, right? Now let's try to see that this one. if I just run this search, which is not exactly the event type search we have created, right? It's just another search which will also return the events which belongs to the event type we have created over there, right? If you see now, those events which is basically satisfying that condition, status equals to 200 and action equals to purchase, okay, so those events are colored as green over here. Okay, so this is another way you can see the use of event types over here. You can color code, right? So you can see when you can see the pattern in your data when that particular events are occurring in your system. Okay, and if you just expand those events over here, there will be a field called event type over here, which you can see it from here as well. It's coming over here. Okay, if you see this is the successful purchase event type over here, right? So that also you can see it even from this one over here as well, right? Now, as I said, a event can belongs to multiple event types as well, right? So let us try to create another event types and see how these events type are getting displayed over here. Okay, so for this, let's say I'll just say status equals to 200. So I'll just filter out all the successful status, right? Whether it's a get, that means if customer want to see a particular item from our website or from the Buttercup Games website, or they want to purchase, they purchase it successfully, right? So both of these requests, like get and post, have their own success messages, right? So I'm just pulling all the status equals to 200 events over here. Okay, so if I just say save as event type over here, I'll just say success events. Okay, success events over here. Now color I will choose it as, let's say, orange. Okay, and the priority I'll give it as 2 over here. Okay, so if now if you see it over here, when you want to create an event type, right, and you can see there are events which may belongs to this status success underscore event type, or it can belongs to that successful purchase event type as well, right? So whenever you want to have a event type which is basically more granular, you want to assign more priority to that, so that whenever you are searching with that particular event type, right, so those events will be getting prioritized. And more generic event types, generally you'll be assigning less priority over there. That's the general best practices we generally follow over here. Okay, so we'll click on save. So done. So now if you see it over here, if I just run it here, okay, so rest of the events where my event types is not matching with this successful purchase event types, there we are displaying that orange color over here, right? But those events where actually I'm satisfying the conditions for successful purchases, if I just expand this event, it will make more sense. If you see, this particular event has 2 event types, right? Successful purchase and success events, right? Now if you see, the successful purchase is displayed first, then the success events over here, because successful purchase has greater priority compared to this guy over here, right? That's why even Splunk has picked up the color green as well over here, which is defined for successful purchase over here. Okay, so that's the idea behind a event type, multiple event types, and how you should design it. And when designing it, right, the factors you need to take care of. Now in Splunk there is another way of creating event types. Okay, now that is called dynamic way of creating event types, that I will show you using a conf file. Okay, so we'll go to our eventtypes.conf file. So now currently that new event types is not showing up over here because we have not make it as global or app level. So we'll just make it as app level. Okay, so it should be showing up over here in my eventtypes.conf now. Okay, now there is another way of creating event types in Splunk called the dynamic way. Okay, so before that, let us see over here. Okay, so if I just run this search, now for each and every field there is a field called action over here, right? Either it's a add to cart, purchase view, remove or change the quantity, right? So let's say if I wanted to create a event type based on the value of this guy. Okay, so for suppose let's say that this particular event, right? So if I just add this one as a selected field, I can see it over here. Now if you see it over here, the action equals to add to cart is showing up over here, right? For this event, the action equals to purchase is showing up over here, right? So I want to create an event type for this event as action dash purchase, for this event as action dash add to cart. That means based on the field value, I want to create an event type. Now either you can do in static way, right? You need to create multiple tabs and then define that, or you can do in dynamic way as well, like this one, action equals to %%. This is the way we will be passing the value of the action field over here. Okay, so this is the field name action, which we will be referring to this guy over here. Okay, so that's the field name. Now if I just define a search over here, so I'll just define the search till this point. Okay, and to be more specific, what I'll do it over here, it's fine, like I will just priority, I will give it as 1 over here. So whenever we have a success events, right? So and the events we are not having success over here, it will be the first priority. That means this particular event type will be showing up first, and the color I will give it as blue, let's say. Okay, let's see how this works. Blue over here. Okay, so let's restart Splunk and see whether this is working fine or not. We'll go to settings, server controls, and restart Splunk. We'll come back after Splunk restart completed. Okay, our Splunk has been restarted, and let's run that query and see how we are working it. So we'll just copy this particular query over here, and we will run it for all time. Okay, so now if you see these are the events, right, where it basically painting it as a blue over here, because if I just expand this event over here, if you see for this guy, the field value is basically star, because I think there is no action over here. So that's why it is creating something like action dash star over here, right? And it also belongs to the success events over here if you see it. Okay, so let us try to see an event where we have particular action value, like this guy over here, right? If you see, the event type it created is action dash add to cart. Okay, that means dynamically you are creating event types over here using a single stanza, correct? Because otherwise, if you just see it, like if you want to create this kind of event types, you need to create multiple stanza based on the number of values you have in the action field, right? That means at least 5 stanzas here you'd have need to create it over there, but we created a single stanza by using a dynamic value from the action, right? And in future, if you want to add, if this field have new values over here, it will be automatically handled as well. Okay, so this is the way you can create event types. This is called basically event type templates as well. Okay, so you can create event types using some templates as well according to your need. And now if you see, if I just want to run that particular event type, let's say action equals to action dash add to cart, right? So I can directly use that, even though it's a dynamic event type. Either I can use like any of this event types, action purchase or action equals to add to cart, right? So Splunk will dynamically build that event type and return me the events belongs to that particular event type. Okay, and now if you see, like this is the whole idea about the categorization, right? So here, when a user who do not have much idea about the underlying data and different conditions, right, you can create event types for them. So they just need to write something like this one, event type equals to action equals to purchase. So they do not need to know any other things over there. So they will, and by this event type name only, it will be easily identifiable the events from here. Okay, so that's the idea behind the categorization of the event type. Now there is another concept, another command basically I wanted to show you today. So that is very useful when you will be basically planning to create event types in your Splunk. So for that, what I'll do is I will just run this particular command over here. Okay, now this is the all the events I have in my index, right? Now there is a command called findtypes. Okay, so if you just run this command on your data, so what this command basically do, it basically suggests the possible event types you can create in your for your data by returning something like this one. So it basically give you the count for different combinations, like not action equals to stir. If you see, it has given action equals to purchase some count, action equals to add to cart, this counts. Okay, it basically suggests like what could be the possible event counts based on like how many times this combinations are occurring over here in your events. Okay, so based on that, maybe you can take a decision on how many event types you want to create and what could be the search criteria in your event types. Okay, now here by default it returns only 10 rows, so there is a, I think, input called max if you want to return more than 10 rows over here. Okay, so you can use that particular stuff as well over here. So now it will generate 20 rows from here. Okay, as you can see it from here. Okay, so this is basically getting an idea about how you want to create an event type. So hopefully this video was helpful. In the next video we'll talk about more knowledge objects in Splunk before we move to common information model application. Okay, see you in next video.